Hi everyone, it's Professor Clark, and in this lecture we're going to go over something that you'd think would be easy and fun, but isn't. And that's wedding and marriage vocabulary. And you're like, how hard can it be? I mean, people get married all the time. Surely this is really straightforward, right? Wrong. This is something that trips up a lot of Americans, and it does for two reasons. First of all, it's grammatically complex. Second of all, it is culturally not in tune with current American culture in many ways, because, as you'll see, it is highly heteronormative, and you have completely different constructions for a woman marrying a man and a man marrying a woman, and you must use these constructions. You may not agree with them. You may find them not in tune with your current cultural preferences. And that's okay, you can disagree with them, but this is what people say, and if you don't use these correctly, well, first of all, they're probably going to think that you're just wrong and you don't know what you're doing, and they will very kindly correct you. And then if you persist in using them incorrectly, and you explain that you're doing this out of some kind of political protest, they will probably be very offended. And this may not be worth it to you, because when you're in someone else's culture, when you are a guest in someone else's culture, you don't have to agree with their culture, but you do need to think about how to show respect for their culture and how to achieve what you want to achieve without hurting and offending people. So you could explain, for example, that things are different in the US, or that you have something that you want or need to say that these words don't express. But you can't just go riding roughshod over their language, their grammar, and their culture, because first of all, they won't understand, and they'll be like, God, these Americans, they just can't speak Russian. And if they do understand, they'll be like, God, these Americans, they're such arrogant jerks. So think about how you want to avoid giving that impression. So now that you've had your daily lecture on cultural sensitivity, let's jump into the grammar. And let's start off with the construction when we're talking about a woman marrying a man. And for a woman to marry a man, we use the phrase выходить или выйти. So выходить would be the imperfective and выйти is the perfective. And then замуж, за plus the accusative. So we could say, for instance, Вера выходит замуж за Андрея. Vera is getting married to Andrei. Or Ира вышла замуж за Vadima. Ira married Vadim. Or Ira got married to Vadim. So that is if we want to use the verb to marry or to get married to. If we want to use the expression to be married to, the construction is за мужем, за plus the instrumental. Notice that выходить or выйти замуж is a verb of motion, whereas быть замужем is a sort of verb of location. And so when we have this verb of motion, выходить замуж, we use the accusative. And then when we're indicating location, we use the instrumental. And we'll talk more about how to use the instrumental for location later in the textbook, but it's also something you can use to indicate location. And so when a woman is married, she is located somewhere, and so she is замужем за plus instrumental. And some examples are Vera замужем за Андреем. Vera is married to Andrei. Ира замужем за Вадимом. Ira is married to Vadim. And if we want to say a married woman, as in she is a married woman, we say замужняя женщина. Note that it's a soft stem adjective. Замужняя женщина. Next, let's talk about how to talk about a man marrying a woman. So for a man to get married, the verb is жениться, and then we use на plus the prepositional. So Андрей женится на Вере. And note the stress shift. Жениться is second conjugation, and it has a shifting stress. So я женюсь, ты женишься, он женится. Андрей женится на Вере. Andrei is getting married or will get married to Vera. Vadim женился на Ире. Vadim got married to Ira. And note that жениться is both perfective and imperfective when it refers to a man. We can also use it to refer to a couple getting married, as you'll see on the next slide. But in that case, there are two different forms, an imperfective and a perfective. If you were talking just about a man marrying a woman, жениться is both imperfective and perfective. And then if we want to say that a man is married to a woman, we use the form женат, which is a short form adjective, plus na plus the prepositional. So Andrei женат на Вере. Vadim женат на Ире. And then a married man is женатый человек. Now let's talk about a couple getting married. So if you're describing the couple getting married, the verb is жениться, which is imperfective, and пожениться, which is perfective. And normally you would say, они поженились, they got married. If you're talking about the couple and you want to say they are married, the construction is женаты. Они давно уже женаты. And then newlyweds are молодая пара or молодоженные. So again, this marriage vocabulary is heteronormative. It only describes weddings between heterosexual couples, and you always have to indicate whether it's a man marrying a woman or a woman marrying a man. If you want to describe something else, that language is currently in flux, so I'm not going to nail anything down right now. If it's important for you to be able to talk about that, first of all, I'd say pick your conversation partners wisely in Russia. Many people will, in fact, be quite open and accepting of that, but many people will not be. So think hard about whom you're going to tell it to, and then you should probably ask, what is the current vocabulary at the moment? And again, think about how you can present this in a fashion so that people will accept it and feel positively disposed towards it and you. You certainly can talk about it. People do talk about it, but only in the right circles. And again, remember that you're going to be talking to people from a very different cultural background, and you want to tailor your language accordingly. So marriage vocabulary may be heteronormative, but delightfully, I'm happy to say that divorce is not. Anyone can get divorced in Russian. And the construction for to get divorced is разводиться or развестись, and then с plus the instrumental. So we could say, for instance, мы с мужем разводимся. My husband and I are getting divorced. Or Женя и Natasha развелись. Женя and Natasha got divorced. And then if you want to say that someone is separated, that's в разводе. Or if they are divorced, разведен, if it's a man, разведена, if it's a woman, or разведенный человек, a divorced person. And according to a legal website I looked at, technically в разводе means separated but not officially divorced yet, whereas разведен or разведена is officially divorced. So there you have your wedding and marriage vocabulary. It's, like I said, a little more complicated than what we're used to in English, but once you get used to it, it's fairly straightforward to use, and people really do use it. This really is how people talk, and so, just accept that they have this much more complicated structure than we do, and you will soon get the hang of it.